Hello, I'm Martin Hoover, District Administrator for California District 49. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us to discuss the Interleague Rules and Regulations for the 2022 season. It's important to understand that there's a different type of governance when it comes to Interleague play. All Interleague play is coordinated by the District Interleague Committee. The committee's main objective is to obtain and maintain rules and coordinate the regular season to successful completion in June. The committee is composed of district staff members and is chaired by the Assistant District Administrator. This committee handles all protests and disciplinary issues that may arise during the Interleague season. A current breakdown of our Interleague committee is shown on the screen in front of you. Roger Potter is our chair as our Assistant District Administrator. We have 3 area coordinators, Pete Esquivel, Andrew Stinnett, and Tim Betcher, who also serve as committee members. Shannon Betcher is our baseball interleague coordinator and serves on the committee, as well as Rob Johnson, our district umpire-in-chief. Currently, our softball interleague coordinator position is vacant, but when that is filled, that individual will also serve as a member of the committee. There is also a vast amount of resources available by visiting our website at www.ca49.org and selecting the Interleague Play tab in the menu. When you go to that website and go to that webpage, you'll see not only information on schedules for interleague play, but there will also be links available that will take you to reports that may need to be filled out by you during the season. We'll talk more about this as we continue on. But let's delve into our interleague rules. It is extremely important to remember that unless it's specified in the interleague rules for 2022, the official regulations and playing rules for baseball and softball will be used. So if it's not in our handout, we'll refer back to the official rulebook. We have some responsibilities that are prone to the home site, not necessarily the home team. There may be situations in which the home team is scheduled to play at a facility that isn't their own. In that instance, the home site would be responsible for supplying and retaining the official scorebook for that site. If there's a discrepancy during the game, we will refer back to this official book for disputes that arise. The home site will also provide tools necessary for field preparation prior to the game time. There's also responsibilities for the home team. The home team will supply at least one umpire for all games. The home team will supply the official scorekeeper for each game played as well. The official scorekeeper shall use any designated score box or scorekeeper's table should there be one available. If not, we recommend the scorekeeper sit as close as they can to home plate so they can communicate with the umpire if needed. The official scorekeeper's area is considered the same as a dugout. Nobody's allowed to talk or distract them from the events of the game. The scorekeeper is a game official. The scorekeeper will also complete and initial the pitching record for each team in the softball divisions. They are also responsible for preparing the field prior to the game. The home team will supply one new ball at the start of the game and more if necessary throughout the game. The visiting team also has responsibilities. They will provide the official pitch count keeper in all baseball baseball divisional games. That official pitch count keeper should use any designated score box or scorekeeper's table should there be one available. And just like the scorekeeper, if one isn't available, they should try to sit as close to home plate to communicate with the umpire as needed. The official scorekeeper's area is once again considered a dugout, and the official pitch count keeper, just like the official scorekeeper, is considered an official of the game. They'll also need to complete and initial the pitching record for each team during that game for the baseball divisions. The visiting team will also supply one new ball at the start of the game and more if necessary throughout the game. Pitching records are one of the most important records that the team is going to carry with them throughout the season. Each manager is responsible for their team's pitching record. This record must be given to the scorekeeper or the pitch count keeper, depending on what division of softball or baseball you're playing, 15 minutes prior to the start of the game. If a manager or team does not have a pitching record, the game is protestable, and any protest regarding pitching records must be made prior to the start of the game. If a team or a manager is found to not have an accurate pitching record available at the game site, the Interleague Committee will look at disciplinary action against the manager of the team. Remember, pitching records protect our players' arms. This is a safety precaution, And pitching records are not something that is an accessory. It is a designated record that must be kept with each team and must be presented for each game. It's not optional. Use of an illegal pitcher will result in the removal of the manager for the remainder of that game and suspension for the next game. The Interleague Committee reserves the right for further discipline up to and including removal of the manager from the program. The opposing team manager must sign the pitching record after each game. If there is a problem at the game site and the opposing manager refuses to sign the pitching affidavit, the Interleague Committee should be notified, and that manager who is not signing the affidavit will have disciplinary action taken against them. Remember, once again, these pitching records are not optional. Signing them is not optional. It is a mandatory record that must be kept with each team. Remember, we're here to protect our players. An example of the baseball pitching record is shown on the screen in front of you. Everything should be entered in pen, including the date, the pitcher's first and last name, the number of pitches thrown, the threshold that pitcher reached, the name of the opponent, the score at the removal of the pitcher, and the next date that they're available to pitch. On the far right side is where the initial of the official scorekeeper and the initials of the opposing team manager will be used. Once again, this form should be signed and kept and presented at every game by the manager of the team. If injury or illness occurs that requires a player to leave the game, it must be logged in the official scorebook. It will also need to have a written report submitted to the Interleague Committee within 24 hours. This is just a requirement so that way we can follow up on the player and follow up with the local league who may or may not need to file an insurance claim based upon the injury or illness. This written report can be done via email by sending an email to the Interleague Committee at the email address interleague@ca49.org. Some leagues will be utilizing a portable mound in the baseball divisions. Leagues utilizing a portable mound may not allow a player with metal cleats to pitch. A team that is knowingly violating this rule will be referred to the Interleague Committee for possible suspension or removal from the program. If your league is planning on using a portable mound, please notify the leagues that you plan on interleaguing with for the season, so that way their pitchers and players can come to the game in appropriate attire. For interleague play, we also utilize pool players. Pool players can be utilized during interleague play at the discretion of the local league. Players must be from the same league and division as the team requesting them. All regular guidelines in requesting a pool player stay the same. The manager reports to the player agent that they need additional players for their upcoming game. The player agent should be the only person making contact with pool players to notify them that there's a game that they're going to be playing in. Leagues and teams may utilize pool players to ensure that a team has at least 10 players at the game site. Under no circumstances should a team utilize pool players to ensure an 11th or 12th player is available. Each of our divisions will have time limits. This is due to the shortage of field usage that is available to local leagues. In the T-ball divisions, no new inning will start after 1 hour and 30 minutes. For the Farm Sunshine divisions, no new inning is after 1 hour and 30 minutes. And for the minor league divisions, no new inning after 2 hours. These time limits apply to both baseball and softball. In the Major League Division, there's no new inning after 2 hours for softball and no new inning after 2 hours and 15 minutes for baseball. In the Intermediate, Junior, and Senior League divisions, no new inning after 2 hours and 15 minutes in softball, and no new inning after 2 hours and 30 minutes in baseball. Time is kept by the umpire and ultimately is recorded by the official scorekeeper. Time limits should be started at the game time unless there's a delay that is unavoidable. In some instances, it may be needed that a doubleheader is required to make sure that teams get in the necessary games for the season. Doubleheaders are allowed for every division from the major baseball and softball divisions and above. If a team plays in a doubleheader, there will be a 30-minute break between games. The second game starts with the first pitch. The first game ends with the third out. So once the game is done with the third out, there should be a clock that's started for 30-minute breaks to allow the players to rest, to receive water, nourishment, and to prepare for the second game. The home plate umpire shall notate and inform the official scorekeeper with the start time for the next game. A 10-run and 15-run mercy rule will be in effect at the end of a regulation game. This applies for the major divisions and above. In the minor divisions and below, our goal is to get these kids as much playing time and fundamental training as possible. So we will exclude the mercy rule from those lower divisions of play since they're instructional. Like I said, for the major divisions and above, we will utilize both a 10-run and 15-run mercy rule. Now to delve into some specific playing rules based upon each division of play. In the T-ball division, the season is going to be split into two halves. The first half of the season, all players will utilize a batting tee regardless of age or experience. In the second half of the season, all teams will utilize a manager pitch policy. In the second half, managers and coaches will pitch a maximum of 3 pitches to the player. Once the 3 pitches have been reached without the player hitting the ball will be placed on a batting tee for them to hit off of. For the T-ball division, throughout the entire season, all players will be allowed on the field defensively. In the first half of the season, players advance base by base without liability to be put out. In the second half of the season, players advance base by base, but can be put out on a play that's defensive in nature. Once again, in the first half, we're preparing these kids by teaching them fundamentals. In the second half, we add a little bit more of the fundamentals by explaining to the kids that a good defensive play ends in an out, and that player should be removed from the bases in the second half of the season. In the farm baseball and sunshine softball divisions, all players will be pitched to by a manager or coach. Each player will have a maximum of 5 pitches, with the exception of foul balls on the 5th pitch. On the 5th pitch, that batter can continue to bat until the ball is put into play, or the player ultimately strikes out. All players are allowed to participate defensively. If you have more than 9 players, the additional players will be placed in the outfield grass. Players advance 1 base on overthrows, and the farm and sunshine divisions will adhere to the 5 runs per half inning rule and use a continuous batting order. In the minor baseball and softball divisions, every team will utilize a 5-run per half inning rule and will utilize a continuous batting order per the Little League rules. In the major softball division, every team and every game will utilize a 5-run rule per half inning. This rule has replaced the archaic 10th batter rule. Little League does not allow us to use such a rule and has allowed us to use the 5-run per half inning rule in our major softball program. If a game gets suspended, it will be called if it cannot begin 30 minutes after the scheduled start time. If a game is suspended, all suspended games are referred back to the league presidents. Managers will notify their league representatives at the first indication they cannot field a team. Try to make sure if you can't field a team that notification be made to your league president at least 24 hours prior to the scheduled start time. It'll be up to the league presidents to determine if and when a suspended game will resume. If either league president cannot make up their mind on when the game should be played or when the game should be played, it will be referred back to the Interleague Committee for a final determination. Makeup games may only be scheduled by the agreement of the league presidents or the Interleague Committee. In certain circumstances, Sunday games may be necessary in order to get the games played. Any makeup games will be made up at the first available time and field. So be prepared to play evenings, weekends, and like I said, even on Sundays if needed. One of the things that the Interleague Committee has to deal with during the year is possible disciplinary action against players, managers, coaches, and fans. We would like to discuss some of the issues that we faced in the past and how those are handled by the Interleague Committee, with the hopes that we can educate our players and participants now and avoid some of these nasty disciplinary issues later on down the road. If there's an ejection during a game, the ejection of a player, manager, or coach results in an automatic and mandatory one-game suspension for the team's next physically played game. That player, manager, or coach who's ejected must not be present at the next physically played game. The Interleague Committee will notify the opposing league that such an ejection has occurred. It should be noted that the umpire-in-chief of the game, the plate umpire, should issue an ejection report to the Interleague Committee within 24 hours of the game. That report can be found on our website at www.ca49.org under the Interleague page where it says Umpire Ejection Report. All ejections are reviewed by the Interleague Committee. The Interleague Committee may issue additional penalties, but cannot rescind the one-game suspension imposed by the Little League rules. Once again, the ejected umpire will send a report to the Interleague Committee through our district website. If a game is protested, the protesting manager must notify the plate umpire that they are protesting the game. The protesting manager and the umpire-in-chief of the game must report the incident to the Interleague Committee through our website within 24 hours. There is a link for both the manager and the umpire to submit their protest reports. Failure of the protesting manager to submit this written report within 24 hours shall result in the automatic denial of the protest. The Interleague Committee shall serve as the protest committee for the remainder of the season and will make a final determination on all lodged protests. We'd also like to remind you that District 49 will be sponsoring our second annual pitch, hit, and run competition. This competition is scheduled for Saturday, April 9th, 2022, and will be held at Hook Park, hosted by Victorville Ribbons Little League. This competition is open to players ages 8 through 14 in both the baseball and softball divisions. Trophies are awarded to the top 3 players in each age group, with the top player being submitted to Major League Baseball with the possibility of advancing in the competition. This competition is free to enter, and we encourage everybody to enlist and enroll and participate. Please check back on our Facebook page and our website in early March for registration information, and be sure to register all of your players for the pitch, hit, and run competition. Throughout the season, if you have any questions in regards to interleague play, we advise you to contact your interleague coordinators. Shannon Betcher is our interleague baseball coordinator, and she can be reached at the email address shannon.betcher@ca49.org. Currently, we have a vacancy in our interleague softball coordinator position. For questions in regards to interleague softball, please email us at info@ca49.org, and one of our assistants will get in contact with you. For general interleague issues or questions, feel free to email the Interleague Committee at interleague@ca49.org. Someone will get back to you as soon as the email is read. If you have any questions regarding interleague rules and play, please feel free to email us at interleague@ca49.org or contact your local board member, and they should be able to assist you in the rules and regulations for interleague play. This is the end of our presentation. Once again, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. We hope that you have a very successful and joyful 2022 season, and we'll see you at the ball fields.